The last embers of dusk had not yet faded from the sky above the Terran frontier when the starship Resolute of Dawn completed its translation into normal space, coasting on momentum toward the ragged, half-collapsed mouth of the breach. For centuries, the breach had been humanity's furthest boundary, a maelstrom of warped physics where broken starlight twisted into spirals and entire sensor sweeps died in static. It was a region so hostile that even automated probes refused to remain coherent inside it for more than a few minutes. And yet the Resolute of Dawn approached with deliberate confidence, driven by an objective that outweighed every risk its crew could name. Commanding the ship was Expediter Aurelia Vance, whose reputation for navigating impossible threats had reached legendary status among the frontier fleets. Standing at the observation pane of the command deck, she watched the breach with steady, unblinking focus, as though daring its distortion fields to challenge her crew's resolve. Her hands were clasped behind her back, posture perfectly balanced, but even that slight stillness carried a tension that resonated across the deck. The crew felt it anticipation, not fear. On the forward display, the breach churned like an ocean caught in a gravity storm, its roiling bands of luminescent turbulence bending and unbending in a slow, monstrous rhythm. Nothing about it looked like a natural phenomenon. It swallowed background radiation, emitted impossible flares of unknown energy, and distorted distances so drastically that optics frequently contradicted inertial sensors. Humanity had never cracked its mystery. Every attempt to probe its inner depths had ended with lost vessels, shattered drones, and data streams corrupted until they resembled the rantings of a fever dream. Yet now, for the first time in generations, humanity was sending in a crewed ship because something had finally come back out. It had not been a vessel, nor a probe, nor anything human-built. 6 months prior, a damaged object had emerged from the breach, drifting helplessly until Terran frontier patrols retrieved it. The object, an ovoid shell of unknown alloy, contained a single occupant, an extraterrestrial, the first living, spacefaring being humanity had ever encountered. It had been dying when it was found. 3 attempts at revival failed, but in its final hours it had communicated just enough to terrify every scientist and strategist in the Terran Compact. A threat was coming, not from inside the breach, but through it. Something vast, collective, and predatory. Something that the dying alien insisted would soon wake again after a long dormancy. Something that devoured civilizations. That alien had used one word, or what translators were able to approximate as a word to describe the threat: the Formless. It had taken months of analysis for research teams to piece together even fragments of what the alien had tried to convey. But all interpretations pointed toward one conclusion. If the Formless breached into Terran space, humanity's extinction was only a matter of time. Resolute of Dawn had the singular responsibility of entering the breach to locate the source of the alien distress signals still flickering deep inside it. The ship carried experimental equipment, advanced shielding, and a hand-picked team of specialists. They were tasked with gathering intelligence, rescuing any surviving beings, and if necessary, deploying the prototype harmonic field destabilizer that frontier engineers had cobbled together as a potential weapon against entities the alien had described only through metaphor and fear. The command deck itself was alive with quiet activity as officers ran system checks, verified instrument stability, and ensured that the ship's integrity fields remained synchronized. Aurelia listened to the flowing reports without turning away from the breach. Her second officer, Navigator Quentin Hale, stepped beside her with a tablet in hand. He was tall and spare, with an analytical mind that seldom stopped turning. "Integrity fields are stable for the moment," he said, "but we'll need continuous recalibration once we start pushing into the distortion layers. Our models predict tolerances within safe limits for at least the first 60 minutes. And beyond that," Aurelia asked. "We enter the unknown," he replied with a faint grimness. As always, she nodded. As always, she echoed. The frontier fleets had a saying, whispered half in jest and half in reverence: where the unknown begins, humanity follows. It was not arrogance. It was survival instinct made doctrine. Humanity had spread to the stars not because the stars had welcomed them, but because they had learned to carve a place out of hostile environments. But the breach was hostility raised to a cosmic scale, and the formless, if real, were something far worse. The ship's chief science specialist, Mara Ellerin, arrived next, her dark hair tied back tightly and her expression sharpened by blended fascination and concern. She carried a display panel filled with swirling sensor maps. "New readings," she announced. "The breach is fluctuating more violently than during our preliminary scans. The patterns are irregular, but there's a recurring harmonic signature buried under the distortion layers. It matches the energy profile associated with the alien's life support module." Aurelia turned at that. "The same frequency, within a 95% match," Mara confirmed. "Something inside is broadcasting. Not continuously, more like pulses, almost like a beacon trying to break through interference." Hale frowned. "A distress beacon or a warning? Possibly both," Mara said. "But whatever is generating it is deep inside the region where our instruments degrade into chaos. We'll need to get far closer than planned to get actionable readings." Aurelia returned her gaze to the breach. She imagined the shape of an invisible beacon pulsing inside that roiling, half-alive expanse, sending coded signals through layers of warped physics. She imagined the alien's trembling voice in its final hours, its clawed fingers pointing toward a star map, insisting that time was running out. Every memory of that moment tightened her jaw. She could not allow humanity to approach this threat blind. "How soon until we're ready to initiate partial entry protocols?" Aurelia asked. Hale checked his readings. 5 minutes. The hum of the engines deepened throughout the vessel as the ship aligned its trajectory. Aurelia exhaled slowly, letting the breath sharpen her focus. "Begin preparing for insertion," she ordered. "All departments to breach-ready positions." As the order carried across the ship, lights shifted from standard white to a warm amber glow indicating alert status. The deck's holographic overlays flickered, recalibrating for distortion compensation. Crew members strapped into their stations. Aurelia allowed herself a single moment of memory, standing beside her sister in the Academy's observation hall years ago, both marveling at early survey images of distant nebulae. Her sister had often dreamed of being the first human to contact an alien civilization. The dream had died years before the dying alien had fallen into Terran hands. And now Aurelia was leading humanity's first mission based on extraterrestrial warning. She had no interest in the romanticism of discovery. She was here to prevent what might be the most catastrophic threat humanity had ever faced. "Initiating first stage entry in 90 seconds, Hale announced. Mara tapped at her controls with rapid precision, reading waveforms that jittered and spiked like panicked heartbeats. "Distortion surge approaching," she warned. "Field integrity holding, but we're going to feel it." Aurelia braced herself subtly. The moment the ship crossed the breach's boundary, everything would change. The sensors might become unreliable. Space might warp in ways no human instruments could predict, but they had come prepared, or as prepared as anyone could be. As seconds ticked down, Aurelia allowed her mind to settle into razor clarity. "Begin entry," she said. The ship glided toward the threshold of the breach. At first, the visual distortion intensified only slightly, like heat rippling off desert sands. Then the turbulence swallowed the starfield entirely. Colors fractured into impossible spectrums. Gravity seemed to twist, not pulling in any direction but warping locally, creating micro-pockets of skewed force that the ship's stabilizers fought against. The moment the Resolute of Dawn crossed the boundary layer, every instrument spike went wild. The hull vibrated with subharmonic tension. The lights dimmed, and for a breathless heartbeat, the entire universe felt inverted. Then the ship stabilized. for a certain definition of the word. Aurelia gripped the edge of a control console as the deck panels resumed their glow. "Status," she demanded. Hale took several seconds longer than usual to interpret his screens. "We are in," he said, "but readings are unreliable. Gravity fluctuations are rippling ahead of us. We are compensating, but the field prediction algorithms are already hitting their limits." Mara's voice carried a mix of exhilaration and dread. "We are receiving the harmonic signal more clearly now. It's definitely a beacon of some kind. It's shifting to a pattern consistent with biological communication rather than mechanical." "Meaning?" Aurelia asked. "Meaning," Mara swallowed. "It might not be a device, it might be a living entity." Before Aurelia could respond, the ship lurched violently to one side. One of the officers cursed as their display whited out. Hale's fingers flew across his console. "Gravity shear," he snapped. "Compensating." The ship strained against unseen forces. Aurelia felt the vibrations through the deck plates, heard the muffled groan of stressed alloy. "Adjust vector," she ordered. "Stabilize our trajectory." Hale rerouted power, and the engines roared with a deeper resonance as they forced the ship back into a coherent path. The shaking subsided, though distortion continued to ripple outside the viewport. The breach was alive with motion, as though reacting to their presence. Mara stared at her data streams. "The beacon signal just changed," she said quietly. "It's accelerating, not in frequency, in location." Aurelia frowned. "It's moving." "Yes," Mara whispered, "and fast." Hale analyzed the trajectory and blinked in alarm. "That movement, it's coming toward us." A hush fell across the command deck. Everyone watched the distorted space ahead, waiting for anything to emerge. Aurelia stepped forward until she towered over the primary viewport. Her heartbeat remained steady. "Open a broad-spectrum channel," she ordered. "Try to hail it. Human language, harmonic patterns, universal mathematical constants, anything that might convey non-hostile intent." Hale transmitted the signals. For a moment there was no response. Then space tore. A shape forced its way through a fold of distorted geometry, unraveling from the breach like a figure trying to escape a net. The ship automatically magnified the image. It was a vessel damaged, asymmetrical, and clearly not built by human hands. Its hull was composed of interlocking organic filaments fused with metallic plates, many of which were cracked or missing. Patches of the structure flickered as though struggling to maintain cohesion. Trails of luminescent particles streamed behind it. "That matches the architecture of the alien's escape pod," Mara breathed. "But far larger. A full starship, maybe, or what remains of one." The damaged vessel rotated slowly, drifting toward them on an unstable trajectory. Aurelia could not tell if it was under any control. Her pulse quickened, but purely from focus, not fear. "Any signs of life?" she asked. Mara hesitated. "Yes," she said, "but faint, very faint." Hale's brow furrowed as he studied the vessel's movement. "It's losing structural integrity." Aurelia made her decision instantly. "Prepare a stabilization field. Extend a magnetic tether. We are pulling it in." Hale nodded sharply and began initiating the recovery protocols. The ship's forward projectors emitted a shimmering field that enveloped the drifting alien vessel. Tension rippled across the resolute of Dawn's superstructure, but the field held. Slowly, carefully, they drew the damaged ship toward their docking bay. Mara's voice was soft, awed. "I can't believe it. After all these years of the breach consuming everything we've sent inside, something survived," Aurelia murmured. The alien vessel shuddered once violently as though resisting. Every alarm on the deck flared. "Gravitic spike," Hale shouted. "It's destabilizing." "Hold the tether," Aurelia ordered. "Do not let go." For several agonizing seconds, the field flickered, but then the gravitational surge subsided, and the vessel drifted the last few meters into the bay's containment shield. A dull metallic thud resonated through the ship as the alien structure settled into place. "Docking complete," Hale confirmed. "Containment field stable. Internal scanners are struggling, but it appears intact enough for exploratory boarding." Mara exhaled shakily. We may be about to speak to a living extraterrestrial that survived inside the breach. Aurelia's eyes narrowed. Or we may be retrieving the last survivor of a civilization the Formless have already consumed. Hale turned to her. What are your orders? Aurelia took a long, measured breath. We prepare a boarding team, she said. We breach that vessel and determine whether there's anyone alive who can tell us what happened. She paused, but we proceed with the assumption that whatever lies inside may be more dangerous than anything we've seen before. She stepped away from the viewport. The Formless destroyed this ship's people. We need to know how and whether humanity still has a chance to stop them. The deck crew exchanged glances, but no one questioned her. They followed Aurelia because she gave certainty where others found only fear. As preparations began, Aurelia allowed herself a final look at the damaged vessel on the monitors. Its flickering hull pulsed faintly, almost like a heartbeat, and though she could not say why, she felt that whatever lay inside was watching them, waiting, and perhaps praying that humanity had arrived in time. The quarantine bay's air felt heavier than any other section of the Resolute of Dawn, as though the weight of a distant, dying civilization pressed invisibly against the walls. The alien vessel rested at the center of the chamber, cradled in a lattice of containment beams that shimmered faintly like pale blue membranes. Even damaged, the structure looked both biological and engineered, an organic architecture fused with metallic fibers in sweeping curves that evoked the ribcage of some colossal, ancient creature. When Aurelia Vance approached it with her selected boarding team, she sensed every member's unease, though none dared voice it. The vessel did not merely look wounded, it felt wounded. Pulses of muted luminescence traveled along its surface like shallow breaths struggling to preserve life. The hull's outer layer twitched in response to the environmental shift, as if recognizing the presence of the humans who stood before it. Aurelia fought the instinctive chill that crawled across her skin. She had been trained to face unknown threats with composure, but composure did not prevent instinct from whispering. Something about the vessel's movements, subtle, almost imperceptible, felt like a plea or a warning. She glanced back at her boarding team, Mara Ellerin, Quentin Hale, Security Marshal Dorian Crest, and 2 engineers equipped with adaptive cutting tools capable of breaching unknown alloys. Every one of them wore full environment suits, their helmets sealed and their systems linked. They had been told the alien vessel was structurally unstable, possibly toxic, and perhaps hostile. Yet beneath all those practical concerns lay another truth. Humanity's future depended heavily on what they found inside. Mara stepped forward first, drawn by the sight before her. Her scientific curiosity overcame her apprehension. She ran a handheld scanner along a shallow groove in the hull, her brow furrowing as the readings shifted unpredictably. "It's repairing itself," she said softly, "very slowly, but the material is attempting regeneration." Dorian, whose broad frame and reinforced armor made him the most imposing among them, tightened his stance. Regeneration could also mean it's preparing to resist intrusion. "Or that it's barely clinging to survival," Mara countered. "The fluctuations are inconsistent. Some regions are deteriorating as fast as they regenerate." Hale tapped a diagnostic panel mounted to his wrist. "Environmental containment is stable. Radiation levels are fluctuating, but within tolerable limits. If there's something alive in there, we should find it soon. But we need an entry point." He turned toward the engineers. "Begin analysis on hull breach location options." The engineers nodded and moved around the vessel with synchronized precision, scanning for weak points. Aurelia stepped closer, placing one gloved hand near the hull without touching it. She studied the pulses of dim light. "Mara," she said, "do you still have a clear lock on the life sign readings?" Mara adjusted her scanner. "It's faint, but still there. Whatever it is, it's located deeper inside near the vessel's core, and the energy output around it is highly unstable." "Unstable how?" Dorian asked. "As in dangerous." Mara hesitated for a moment, then answered, "Potentially." The biological signature is intertwined with an energy pattern unlike anything we've studied. If it's a life support field, it may fail soon. If it's something else, I can't make a clear assessment yet. The engineers regrouped, their expressions grim. "Commander," one said, "we've identified a section along the port side that appears structurally weakened. It's our best chance to cut through without triggering a chain reaction." "Proceed," Aurelia ordered. The engineers activated their cutting tools, which emitted concentrated beams of harmonic energy designed to sever unknown materials without causing explosive decompression. The beams struck the alien hull with a sizzle, carving slowly through the fused organic metal composite. The air filled with a scent like heated minerals and sharp ozone, even through the environmental suit's filtration systems. The hull reacted, twitching and contracting around the incision. Mara flinched despite herself. "It's responding to the cut." Dorian shifted into a guarded stance. "If it tries to seal us out, we may need to force the breach." "Hold position," Aurelia said firmly. "Observe before escalating." The hull's twitching gradually calmed. The pulsations of light adjusted around the incision, as though the vessel were consciously redirecting its focus away from the disruption. Slowly, a wedge of the hull slid free under the engineer's tools, revealing the first glimpse inside. A collective hush fell over the team. The interior was dimly illuminated by flowing streams of violet luminescence that writhed like liquid veins, winding along the walls and ceiling. The corridors beyond the breach curved in serpentine paths that did not conform to human architectural logic. The walls seemed soft and metallic at once, subtly shifting as though breathing. A faint sound echoed from deep within like distant wind passing through hollow stone, except there was no wind inside the ship. "This feels," Hale murmured. "Alive," Mara finished in a whisper. Aurelia stepped through the breach without hesitation. "Secure the entrance." "Dorian, you're on point." Hale, maintain mapping. Mara, monitor biosigns. Engineers, follow last. Her tone was steady, leaving no room for doubt. They moved into the alien vessel one by one. Dorian led with weapon-ready non-lethal first, lethal as last resort, his visor scanning for movement. The corridor's surface flexed subtly beneath their boots, responding as though tracking their steps. The sensation was unnerving, but Aurelia forced her mind to remain disciplined. She reminded herself that countless biological organisms constructed structures, and humanity had simply never encountered one at this scale. They advanced slowly through the twisting corridors. Each turn revealed more of the vessel's organic design, rib-like supports that curved from floor to ceiling, flowing patterns of bioluminescence that resembled neural pathways, and faint ripples along the walls that behaved like responses to foreign stimuli. "This architecture," Mara breathed, "it's integrated. The entire ship may function as a living environment, adaptive, reactive, and partially self-sustaining." "Sounds less like a ship, more like a creature," Dorian muttered. "Or a union of both," Mara replied. "We're walking inside something that may blur the line entirely." The deeper they went, the more the air seemed to thicken. Readings on their suit displays fluctuated wildly. Hale cursed under his breath, adjusting the mapping system again. "Every time I think I have a stabilized layout, the structure shifts. Corridors change depth, curvature, even dimensional orientation. I'm compensating, but this environment isn't fixed." "Can we still navigate back?" Aurelia asked. "Yes," Hale said. "I'm anchoring markers. Even if the ship shifts, we'll force march our path through brute mapping corrections. Keep them active at all times," Aurelia instructed. "We're not getting lost inside this thing." As they approached what appeared to be a central artery of the vessel, Mara stiffened abruptly. "I'm getting a surge from the life sign," she said. "It's close, less than 30 meters ahead. Energy readings are spiking." Dorian raised his weapon. "Spiking how?" "It's not aggressive," Mara said quickly. "It feels like a distress beacon, but organic. It's crying out." Aurelia stepped beside her. "Lead us to it." They continued forward until the corridor widened into a large chamber shaped like an immense pulsating dome. The walls glowed softly, illuminating the chamber's centerpiece, a towering structure resembling a cocoon suspended by thick, sinewy tendrils attached to the ceiling and floor. Fluctuating patterns of light pulsed across the cocoon's surface. The life sign readings on Mara's display exploded in intensity. "It's inside," she said, her voice barely audible. "Alive, weak, but alive." Aurelia stepped closer, studying the cocoon. The pulsations of light shifted rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat. A low, resonant hum vibrated through the air, as though the cocoon were producing harmonic frequencies. "Can we open it?" she asked. Mara hesitated. "We need to be careful. The cocoon is both biological and energetic. If we cut it improperly, we could harm whoever or whatever is inside." "We are running out of time," Hale cautioned. "Structural stability is degrading. I'm detecting more intense gravitational distortions outside the ship. The breach is reacting to our presence and to this vessel." Dorian frowned, "Meaning we need to extract the occupant and get out fast." Aurelia nodded. "Begin analysis of the cocoon's structure. Find a safe way to access its interior." Mara moved closer, scanning as quickly as she could without compromising accuracy. As she worked, she murmured almost to herself, I think the cocoon is a life support mechanism. It's shielding the occupant from the breach's distortions, but the shield is failing. The energy patterns show collapse zones." A sudden loud crack echoed above them. The entire chamber trembled. "What was that?" one of the engineers asked. Hale quickly checked his instruments. "External gravitational shear. The breach is exerting pressure on the vessel's weakened hull. If it collapses," another tremor shook the chamber. A chunk of the wall split open momentarily before sealing itself again, leaving only a faint scar. Aurelia steadied herself. "We do this now. Mara, tell me how to cut." Mara pointed to a narrow vertical seam faintly illuminated on the cocoon's surface. "Here, it's a structural fold. Cutting along this line minimizes damage and should disengage the outer membrane." "Engineers," Aurelia ordered, "prepare cutting tools." They stepped forward, powering up their harmonic cutters, but before the first beam touched the surface, the cocoon reacted. A sudden burst of light flared outward, forcing the team to shield their visors. The pulsations accelerated wildly, fluctuating in chaotic patterns. "It's destabilizing," Mara shouted. The chamber vibrated with intensifying frequency. Aurelia raised her voice over the rising hum. "Back, clear the area." They retreated several steps as the cocoon pulsed again, this time rupturing along the seam on its own. A split tore open, releasing a flood of iridescent vapor that filled the chamber with a shimmering haze. From within the breach, a figure collapsed to the floor. It was tall, slender, and clearly biological. Its skin was a pale, luminous gray, patterned with faint shimmering veins. Its limbs were elongated, its posture trembling. The being struggled to lift its head. Aurelia saw its eyes multifaceted, reflective, filled with pain and determination. It raised an arm toward Aurelia, and then she heard it, not through sound, through resonance. A harmonic pulse surged through the chamber, vibrating through their suits and into their minds. Words formed not from language, but from conveyed meaning. "You must flee." Mara staggered backward, gripping her helmet. "It's communicating directly." The Formless have awakened. The chamber darkened. The walls shuddered. Pulses of violent distortion rippled through the ship. Hale shouted, "Commander, there's something approaching from outside. Massive energy spikes coming through the breach." The aliens struggled to rise, but collapsed again. Aurelia rushed forward and caught the being carefully under its arms, lifting its weight with surprising ease. It looked at her, with desperation burning through its multifaceted gaze. "You cannot fight them here." Mara knelt beside Aurelia, scanning rapidly. "Its vitals are crashing. We have to get it to the ship's medbay immediately." Dorian turned sharply toward the corridor. "Commander, movement behind us." The corridor they had entered through was no longer empty. Distorted shapes, shadow-like, shifting, impossible to define, crawled across the alien walls, growing closer. The temperature plummeted. The team's visors flickered with warning signals. The alien shuddered in Aurelia's arms. They consume thought. They consume form. They come with the breach. Hale's voice shook. Commander, those readings match nothing in our database. They're not physical as we understand it. We're leaving, Aurelia commanded, her voice sharper than steel. She lifted the alien fully, its weight cradled against her chest, as if carrying a fallen comrade. Dorian, lead us out, double pace. Mara, maintain vitals. Hale, guide us to the breach. Engineers, secure our retreat path. The team surged into motion. The corridor behind them warped as the shadow shapes advanced, flowing like liquid void. The air vibrated with predatory resonance. The alien gasped a single harmonic whisper that trembled through Aurelia's mind. Hurry! They ran through twisting corridors that seemed to shift in panic as the alien's presence left the chamber. The vessel reacted, walls contracting, pathways widening, attempting to speed their escape. Mara's scanner emitted sharp, urgent tones. Life support collapse in multiple sectors. The vessel is dying. So are we if we don't get out, Dorian growled. Another tremor threw the team off balance. Hale stumbled but regained footing, his mapping system struggling to update in real time. Almost there, keep moving. Behind them, the shadow shapes shrieked through resonant distortion, the sound vibrating through the marrow of their bones. The breach point finally came into sight, an opening of harsh artificial light shining from the resolute of Dawn's Bay. Go, Aurelia shouted. Dorian charged through first, clearing the path. Mara and the engineers followed. Hale stumbled through next. Aurelia crossed the threshold last, clutching the alien tightly as the vessel behind them convulsed violently. As soon as they were clear, Aurelia shouted, "Seal the breach." The containment field slammed shut, cutting off the alien vessel from the docking bay. A thunderous roar echoed through the hull as the alien ship imploded under the breach's distortions, collapsing inward like a dying star. The shadow shapes vanished with it. And then silence, not peace, not relief, a pause, a breath before something worse. Aurelia laid the alien gently on the medbay stretcher as medics rushed in. Its multifaceted eyes locked onto hers with fading strength. The Formless have breached the threshold, it whispered into her mind. Humanity must choose, flee or burn. And then its eyes closed, and Aurelia Vance knew the mission had only just begun. The medbay of the Resolute of Dawn had never felt so small. Designed for crisis response, it was equipped with auto-surge bays, holographic diagnostic arrays, sterilization chambers, and enough medical resources to treat a dozen simultaneous emergencies. But despite its advanced technology, it had never been prepared for this. The alien survivor, recovered from the collapsing vessel within the breach, lay motionless on the central biobed, its faint luminescent veins dimming and brightening in fragile rhythm. Every flicker of light seemed a struggle, each breath a battle. Medical automatons hovered around the biobed, articulating slender arms tipped with scanning crystals and adaptive surgical tools. Several human medics supervised, their expressions tense. Aurelia stood at the foot of the biobed, arms crossed tightly behind her back, posture rigid with intent focus. She had refused to leave since the moment her team had brought the alien aboard. Whatever this being carried, knowledge, warnings, scars could determine the fate of humanity. She would not risk missing a moment of clarity from it. Mara Ellerin paced beside her, agitation bleeding through her normally controlled demeanor. Her eyes flicked constantly between diagnostic readouts and the alien's pulsing veins, desperate to understand the patterns. Its energy fluctuations are worsening, Mara said. Internal damage from the breach distortions is spreading. And its resonance frequencies keep collapsing like its thought patterns are splintering. Is it dying? Aurelia asked. Mara hesitated. Not yet, but without stability support, it won't last more than a few hours. Then stabilize it, Aurelia said. Mara nodded sharply, moving toward the medics to coordinate intervention. Aurelia's attention shifted to the alien's face. The being appeared fragile, its elongated features drawn tight, its multifaceted eyes closed. Its skin pulsed faintly under the medbay lights, shimmering with patterns that looked both natural and artificially induced, like biocircuits grafted into living tissue. Most unsettling were the tremors running through its limbs, small spasms that looked less like pain and more like echoes of something hunting it across its memories. Quentin Hale entered the medbay quietly, his expression grave. He waited until Aurelia acknowledged him with a subtle nod before speaking. "We've confirmed that gravitational distortions outside the breach boundary have intensified. The disturbance we detected earlier hasn't subsided. If anything, it's growing." Aurelia kept her voice level, and navigational projections, Hale exhaled through clenched teeth. "If the distortions continue at this rate, they'll reach the outer frontier in 48 hours, maybe less. That was faster than anyone could have anticipated." "Then we need answers," Aurelia said, "before time runs out." The aliens stirred. A soft, harmonic vibration filled the medbay, resonating like distant chimes echoing through water. The medics froze mid-motion. Mara turned instantly toward the bio-bed. The aliens' eyes opened. Their iridescent facets reflected every light in the room, shimmering with depth and fear. It inhaled sharply, its chest rising with trembling effort. When it spoke, the sound did not pass through the air, it pulsed into the minds of everyone present, a seamless resonance of emotion and meaning. "The threshold has fractured. They are coming." Aurelia stepped closer without flinching. "You warned us of the Formless, that they destroyed your people. Tell us what they are." The alien's gaze locked onto her with surprising intensity. Its thoughts pressed against Aurelia's mind like an urgent heartbeat. "They are not creatures. They are hunger given shape. They are unbeing. They devour identity, matter, and memory. They reshape all they touch into iterations of themselves." Dorian Crest arrived at that moment, armored and vigilant as always, though even his stern discipline cracked at the alien's words. "Devour matter and memory? You're saying they erase consciousness?" The alien trembled. "They erase existence. They consume form, thought, history. A civilization is nothing to them but fuel." Mara looked stricken. "How did they breach into your space?" The alien closed its eyes for a long moment. Images rippled through its thoughts. Aurelia felt them faintly. A vast civilization of luminous towers, ships shaped like living stars, harmonic networks that vibrated across entire continents. And then the images distorted. Shadows spiraled, forms twisted, worlds darkened. "We discovered the breach long before your species was born. It was the wound left behind when another galaxy died. A place where physical law dissolves. We built barriers around it. We watched it for millennia, but the Formless waited, they learned. And when the barriers weakened, they surged through." Aurelia asked quietly, "Were you sent as a warning?" The alien hesitated, then answered with deep sorrow. "I was fleeing. I was the last of those who guarded the breach. I escaped in a fragment of my vessel. But the Formless pursued. They tore apart the rest of the fleet. They collapsed our final defenses. I ran and hoped someone would find me, someone who could stand against them." Mara's voice shook. "Why us?" The alien's thoughts wavered, wavering like unstable light. "Because you are unbound, you adapt. You fight beyond logic. You grow where other species break." It looked directly at Aurelia. "Your kind resists annihilation with defiance. It is the only force the Formless do not understand, and therefore the only force that can challenge them." Aurelia absorbed the words with unshaken calm. "What must we do?" Before the alien could respond, alarms shrieked through the medbay. Red lights bathed the room. Hale whipped around to the wall display, scanning the data streaming across it. "Aurelia, it's the breach. There's something emerging, not a ship, not energy, a distortion." Dorian unslung his weapon. "Hostile?" The alien's eyes flew open in sheer panic. "They have found you." The lighting flickered. Gravity trembled. A deep resonance rumbled through the hull. Mara looked around frantically. "Not possible, we're outside the breach's main influence." Another tremor ripped through the ship. Medical equipment toppled, instruments went dark, and the alien screamed a harmonic cry that split through every mind like a blade. Aurelia steadied herself against the bio-bed. "Report," Hale shouted over the chaos. The anomaly is locking onto our position, tracking us through resonance. It's targeting the alien. They can sense its consciousness. Move it, Aurelia ordered instantly. Secure the alien in the isolation chamber. Now, the team acted with military precision. Medics disengaged the biobed's locks, activating the emergency transport field. The alien writhed in pain as the ship vibrated violently, its luminous veins flickering like failing circuitry. They are here. They are breaking through. Dorian pushed through falling equipment and shaking floors to cover the path. Mara steadied the alien's support field, her hands trembling. Hale coordinated calls through the comm system, patching through damage reports from across the ship. They rushed the alien into the isolation wing, reinforced, shielded from psychonic resonance. As they sealed the door behind them, the trembling suddenly stopped, but the silence that followed was worse. Aurelia exhaled slowly. Report. Hale pressed a hand to the side of his helmet, listening. You're not going to believe this. The distortion, it's gone. Gone, vanished, Hale said, like it never existed. Mara checked the alien's vitals. It stabilized the moment we activated the isolation field. The Formless must track it through resonance signals. Cutting those signals temporarily confused them. Dorian frowned. How long until they adjust? The alien whispered. Not long. Aurelia turned toward the others. Then we need a plan before they find us again. She led them to the strategic alcove in the medbay, a transparent command surface that could generate tactical overlays in an instant. She keyed it on. A holographic representation of the breach flared to life, a twisting mass of unstable geometry surrounded by the calm expanse of normal space. Hale zoomed into the boundary layer. The distortions are spreading unevenly. Like multiple points of pressure are pushing outward. Mara paled. Multiple, as in more than one formless entity. Hale nodded grimly. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Dorian looked to Aurelia. If they spill into the frontier, humanity can't stop them. Not like this. Aurelia didn't flinch. Then we don't fight them here. The others turned toward her sharply. She looked at the alien, frail, trembling, but alive with ancient knowledge. You said your people built barriers, that you watched the breach for millennia, that you held back the Formless for ages. How? The alien's voice drifted softly, threaded with agony. Through harmony, through creation, through unity of will. We wove the luminous shield, a lattice of resonance fields tuned to oppose the Formless. But when our unity fractured, the shield fell. Mara whispered, can we rebuild it, duplicate it? The alien's eyes dimmed. Your species lacks the harmonic network. You do not share consciousness. You do not weave thought. Aurelia stepped closer, her voice iron firm. Tell us what we need, and we will build it our way. The alien studied her for a long, silent moment. Then its trembling hand lifted toward her. There is a catalyst, a core of the old shield. If it still exists, it lies deep inside the breach, at the heart of the wound. Hale stared at Aurelia. You're not seriously considering going deeper. The breach almost tore us apart at the threshold. Aurelia's gaze never wavered. If the only thing that can stop the Formless is at the heart of the breach, then that's where we're going. Dorian exhaled a breath of disbelief, but beneath it lay trust. Then we'll get you there. Mara looked at the alien. You'll need to guide us. The alien nodded weakly. I will show you the path through the distortion fields, but I cannot endure another breach unaided. My body will fail. Then we'll reinforce you, Aurelia said, with whatever we must. Alarms suddenly blared again, this time sharper, more urgent. Hale slammed a hand onto the display. Multiple spatial fractures, they're forming all around the breach circumference. The alien's voice broke in terror. They are gathering, preparing to pour through. Aurelia straightened, voice commanding and fierce. Then we act before they do. She turned to her team, eyes burning with resolve. Ready the resolute of dawn for deep breach penetration. We retrieve the catalyst, we rebuild the shield, and we stop the Formless at the source. Mara swallowed hard. If we fail, Aurelia cut her off. We won't. The alien looked at Aurelia with growing recognition, something like hope flickering in its dimming eyes. Humanity may yet survive. As the ship prepared for the most dangerous journey in its history, Aurelia Vance stood unmoving, already seeing the path ahead not as fate, but as a battlefield waiting for defiance. The Resolute of Dawn glided toward the breach once more, its hull tense with anticipation and stress, engines humming at near-maximum output. Aurelia Vance stood on the command deck, observing the chaotic sprawl of warped space ahead. The threshold of the breach now appeared different, more unstable, as if aware of their approach. Gravity ripples pulsated outward from its heart, and light fractured across the viewport in fractured spectrums that human eyes could barely process. The alien survivor rested in a containment cradle in the adjacent chamber, linked to the ship's environmental systems, stabilized as much as possible. Despite the relative calm, its energy readings remained volatile, and each pulse of the breach seemed to reverberate through its fragile body. Aurelia's jaw tightened. Every sensor reading indicated that the Formless were converging toward this point. Every second they delayed increased the danger of exposure. Hale's voice broke her focus. "Commander, the breach is shifting ahead. Multiple distortion nodes are coalescing near the central rift. Their intensity is higher than when we first entered. If we proceed, we'll face gravity and energy fluctuations beyond anything the ship's stabilizers have handled." "I understand the risk," Aurelia replied, voice steady, "but the alternative is waiting to be consumed by whatever they send through. Prepare the adaptive shields. Engage the temporal compensation fields on my mark. Mara, keep the aliens stabilized. Dorian, have the boarding team ready." Mara's fingers flew across her console, adjusting the harmonic support fields linking the alien to the ship's medbay systems. Each adjustment caused flickers of resonance to ripple across the chamber. The alien's eyes fluttered, catching Aurelia's gaze, and for a brief moment conveyed a subtle acknowledgement, both trust and warning. "I will guide you," it whispered directly into their minds, its voice weak but clear. "But once we enter the core, you will rely on me entirely. Any deviation will awaken them." Aurelia nodded curtly. "We proceed as a unit. No one acts independently." Dorian adjusted his armor and weapons systems. "Understood, but what exactly are we facing?" The alien's gaze darkened. "They are not creatures nor machines. They are an unbeing, a force without form drawn to consciousness. If they touch you, they consume more than flesh. They consume memory, thought, identity. They do not leave remnants. We face hundreds, possibly thousands, converging from multiple nodes." Mara swallowed hard. "Then this is beyond anything we've ever trained for." Aurelia's voice did not falter. "We're not here to negotiate. We're here to survive and to complete our objective. Ready the ship." Hale initiated the final preparatory sequences. The adaptive shields hummed, their layers bending reality slightly around the ship. Temporal compensation fields synchronized with the engine cores, providing an artificial inertia against the breach's twisted spacetime. Aurelia gave the order, "Mark, engage." The ship lurched as if the universe itself resisted its intrusion. Outside the viewport, space fractured into fractals of unrecognizable geometry, starfields twisting into impossible shapes, then reforming. Gravity rippled across the hull, tugging and pushing with shifting vectors. Crew members gritted their teeth, hands braced against consoles. The alien's containment cradle vibrated violently, its bioenergetic pulses synchronized with the distortions. Mara cried out softly, stabilizing, but its energy levels are spiking. The breach is resonating with it. Aurelia leaned forward, eyes fixed on the distortion. "We go deeper, no hesitation." As the ship advanced, the twisted geometry intensified. Gaps in space itself opened momentarily, revealing glimpses of distant stars caught in impossible orientations. Streams of raw energy, colors unknown to human perception, snaked across the void. Every display panel on the bridge flickered under the strain. Hale's fingers flew over the navigation console. "We are passing the outer nodes. Internal gravity is fluctuating wildly." "If we don't compensate," the ship shuddered violently. Crew straps, tools, and unsecured items slid across the deck. Aurelia slammed a hand onto the console. "Compensate? Do not allow the ship to lose cohesion. The ship's internal systems strained to their limits. Shields flared, engines roared, and the hull groaned under the force of external distortions. Then suddenly the central rift appeared, a swirling vortex of luminescent energy, a tear in space and time that radiated a terrifying clarity. The alien's voice pierced their minds again. The wound. This is the heart of the breach. The catalyst lies within, but so do they. Dorian's voice shook despite his composure. It's massive. We can't see an edge. It's infinite. Aurelia responded with calm authority. We see what we need to see. Maintain heading. Stabilize around the alien's resonance. That is our guide. The alien's pulse increased sharply, veins lighting up with bright violet energy. Follow me. Step carefully. Deviate and the Formless will find you. The ship maneuvered closer. Every display panel on the bridge screamed data warnings. Gravity vectors shifted at impossible rates. Light bent and fractured. Temporal distortions made it impossible to measure distance accurately, yet Aurelia's commands kept the crew focused. Step by step, they advanced into the rift. The first wave of Formless encountered them as they approached the wound. Shadows of thought, of existence itself, emerged from the fractured spacetime, reaching toward the ship. They were amorphous without form, yet every sense in the ship's instruments and crew perceived menace, a hunger, a deliberate seeking. Dorian braced himself. Shields holding? Barely, Hale shouted. They're interacting with our harmonic fields feeding off them. If we falter, the shields could fail instantly. The alien's pulses flared in resonance with the external distortions. They sense me. You must trust my guidance. Aurelia nodded. Then guide us. The alien began a subtle sequence of mental harmonics, projecting pulses that the ship's adaptive shields could link to. Slowly, the Formless recoiled from the resonance, unable to consume the vessel directly. The crew's stress was immense. Every system teetered on the brink of collapse. Yet step by step, the alien guided them, leading the ship through twisting rifts, around destructive nodes, past pockets of annihilating energy. "We're nearing the core," the alien whispered. "There, the catalyst lies in the fold where creation ends and entropy begins." The viewport revealed it, a glowing sphere suspended in distorted space, surrounded by a lattice of harmonic filaments that pulsated faintly. It radiated energy not like a weapon, but like the concentrated heartbeat of an ancient shield. Mara cried out, her voice trembling. That's the shield's core. It's still active, but it's fragile. If the Formless touch it, it will collapse instantly. Aurelia's mind raced. They had made it this far, but now was the true test. "Prepare the extraction sequence," she commanded. "We stabilize the core's lattice, link it to the alien's resonance, and bring it aboard. Dorian, ready security. Mara, focus on harmonic integration. Hale, hold our position against the distortion." The alien projected a direct pulse, harmonics interfacing with the core. Energy lines trembled, forming a pathway. The Formless recoiled slightly, confusion rippling through their amorphous masses. The ship edged closer. Instruments screamed, and Aurelia felt every tremor as if it were passing through her bones. The alien let out a pulse of energy, guiding the core toward the ship's containment arm. Dorian's team readied deployable stabilizers, firing them into place along the lattice. The moment the first stabilizer linked, the Formless surged forward in a wave of distortion, like a tidal wall. The ship rocked violently. Alarms screamed. Aurelia's knuckles whitened on the control console. "Hold, maintain resonance." Mara's hands flew over harmonic modulators, linking the alien's pulses to the ship's shield and the stabilizers. The lattice of the shield core glimmered, and slowly, miraculously, began to stabilize. The Formless recoiled once more, a pulse of raw hunger striking the adaptive shields, bending them outward, then retreating. The core was linked. The alien gasped in effort, a tremor running through its body as it projected harmonics to complete the connection. Aurelia's voice cut through the chaos. "Dorian, Hale, secure containment. Mara, maintain harmonics." Each pulse synchronized. The core's energy stabilized into a coherent structure within the ship's extraction field. Slowly, Aurelia allowed herself a moment to exhale. They had retrieved the catalyst, but as the ship lingered near the wound, Aurelia's mind warned her this was not victory. The Formless were patient, adaptive, and relentless. They had forced humanity to this point, and they were only beginning to understand the full scope of their adversary. Aurelia turned to her crew. "We have it. We've survived the heart of the breach, but the war is just beginning. The Formless know we exist, and now they will come for us with everything they are." She looked at the alien, weak but resolute. Its luminescent veins pulsed faintly. "We have the first step," it whispered, "but many remain, and many must fall to protect this core. Only with unity, humanity, and alien can it be rebuilt." Aurelia nodded. "Then we fight together." The wound loomed beyond the viewport, silent but alive, a reminder that even in victory, survival demanded relentless courage. The Resolute of Dawn began its careful withdrawal from the heart of the breach, carrying the catalyst and the alien survivor, moving through warped space with every system strained to its limit. The crew's hearts beat in unison with the pulsing harmonics of the core. Aurelia stood at the helm, her eyes fixed on the swirling chaos ahead, knowing that the next stage of humanity's defiance against annihilation was about to begin. The Resolute of Dawn emerged from the outer folds of the breach with the silence of a ship that had survived a storm capable of unmaking worlds. The distorted space behind them contracted into a chaotic blur of fractured light, as though the universe itself was attempting to erase the intrusion. Every system aboard the ship was strained, every console a testament to adaptive ingenuity and relentless human perseverance. Aurelia Vance remained at the command console, eyes fixed on the warped starscape ahead. The alien survivor rested in its stabilized containment field, its body subdued but still radiating a faint luminescent pulse that seemed to resonate with the very structure of the ship. The harmonic link to the core of the luminous shield, the artifact they had retrieved from the wound, continued to hum softly, filling the vessel with an almost tangible energy. Mara Ellerin hovered nearby, her hands continuously adjusting modulators that maintained the alien's delicate resonance with the core. "If the ship's shields falter now," she murmured, "the alien's physiology could collapse entirely. It's barely holding together. Its bioenergetic system is overloaded from the breach exposure." Aurelia didn't respond immediately. Her attention remained on the navigation readouts, the starfield beyond, and the fluctuating projections of the luminous shield's energy lattice. Finally, she said, "Then we maintain absolute stability, no deviations. Every system must act as one organism. Do you understand?" Mara's nod was taut, precise. "Understood, but the strain is immense. One misalignment could unravel the link and kill it instantly." Dorian Crest, standing nearby with arms crossed, added, "We've survived the breach, Commander. That was death walking the void. What could be worse?" Aurelia's expression remained unchanged. "The Formless are adaptive. They watched us inside the wound. They know the shield's core exists, and they are learning how to follow it. What we retrieved is not a victory, it's a beacon." Hale adjusted his navigation panel, running constant simulations. "The breach is still unstable. We can't return to frontier space yet. They could reach our colonies before we make it back. We need a defensible position to integrate the shield and prepare for them." Aurelia's gaze narrowed. "Then we find a safe location. Somewhere outside known hyperspace routes, where we can anchor the core, build the lattice, and prepare humanity's countermeasure. And we do it fast before the Formless adapt to our presence." The alien stirred, weak but present. Its eyes opened, catching Aurelia's gaze with a depth that suggested knowledge beyond human comprehension. "You must construct the lattice quickly," it projected directly into the minds of those aboard. "Time is short. The Formless will converge. They can traverse the breach faster than your vessels can move in normal space." Mara adjusted the harmonic modulators in response to the alien's pulses. "The lattice must interface with the core and the alien's own resonance. That's the only way to stabilize it long enough to function outside the breach. Dorian's voice was low, tense, and if it fails, the alien's multifaceted gaze fixed on him, then the shield dies, and everything that relies upon it will fall to the Formless. Aurelia turned toward the tactical console, projecting a holographic map of nearby space. Several remote systems were marked planets in uninhabited regions, derelict stations, and vast nebulae that offered cover. "We'll use that sector," she said. "It's isolated, dense with matter that can mask our energy signatures and has natural gravitational anomalies we can exploit. Begin navigation." Hale input the coordinates. The ship shifted course, engines thrumming with calculated precision. For the first time in hours, Aurelia allowed herself to study the alien. Its body flickered with unstable pulses, veins glowing in soft, jagged rhythms. "Time is scarce," it projected again. "The lattice must grow fast. The Formless approach in waves. They feel the core, and they will send avatars of unbeing to retrieve it." Mara's voice was sharp. "Avatars, as in the things we saw in the wound?" The alien's gaze hardened. "Yes, formless manifestations. They can move faster than light in fractured spacetime. Each is drawn to the resonance of conscious life. You must prepare for more than a defensive engagement. They will attempt to consume the lattice as it grows." Aurelia's eyes hardened. "Then we fight as we construct. Nothing else is an option." The crew moved into motion with coordinated precision. Engineers prepared deployable lattice nodes designed to interface with the shield's core. Dorian oversaw security measures, configuring energy barriers and kinetic buffers. Mara and Hale coordinated harmonic modulation, linking the alien's resonance to the growing lattice and the ship's shields. Hours passed, or perhaps only minutes. Time itself seemed unreliable as the ship moved through gravitational anomalies and residual distortions from the breach. The lattice began to form, shimmering strands of energy weaving a geometric mesh that pulsated in rhythm with the alien's life signs. Each node deployed increased the stability of the core, but also drew attention. Through their sensors, crew members detected rippling distortions, formless avatars materializing in distant warped space, converging toward the lattice. "They've found us," Dorian announced. "Multiple incoming vectors. We're being tracked." Aurelia's jaw tightened. "Hold formation. Do not fire unless absolutely necessary. The lattice must reach operational stability first. Only then can we fight on equal terms." The first wave arrived. Shapes like liquid shadows, twisting and undulating, moved faster than any conventional propulsion system could account for. They collided with the ship's shields, warping them momentarily before being repelled. The crew's instruments registered energy spikes that made the ship tremble. Mara cried out as the alien shuddered violently in its containment field. "They feel me," it projected. "Their hunger is unrelenting." Aurelia's voice was steady but commanding. "Adjust harmonic projection. Focus all shield energy through the lattice. Draw them into the nodes." Hale's hands flew over the consoles. "Linking nodes now, diverting power." "The lattice is responding, it's drawing them in, but the strain is extreme." Dorian fired non-lethal pulse arrays at the formless shapes. The effects were minimal, but enough to keep them temporarily at bay. The alien's energy flared, amplifying the harmonic lattice. Strands of light formed a dense network around the core, stabilizing it further. The first stage of the lattice was operational. Aurelia allowed herself a brief nod. "Good, but it's not enough. The Formless will adapt." Mara adjusted the modulators again, synchronizing multiple harmonic frequencies. "If we push too far, the alien won't survive. Its bioenergetic system is near collapse." Aurelia glanced at the alien. Its eyes flickered with both exhaustion and determination. "Push. The lattice must hold. Without it, none survive." She exhaled sharply. "Then we hold. All power to the lattice nodes. Every system linked. We fight to stabilize it, and then we fight to defend it." The ship trembled as the Formless intensified their assault. Waves of distortion battered the hull. Gravity surged and fell in impossible patterns. Lights flickered and panels failed, yet the crew remained focused. Slowly, the lattice expanded outward from the core, forming a three-dimensional network of shimmering energy that connected the aliens' resonance to the ship's systems. Each pulse of the aliens' life signs sent new strands weaving through the mesh. The first wave of formless avatars collided with the lattice. Their forms writhed violently, energy dispersing and feeding into the lattice, but failing to consume it. The second wave arrived, then the third. The ship shook violently under the onslaught, but the lattice held. Dorian shouted over the cacophony, "They're feeding the lattice. It's absorbing their attacks." Mara's eyes widened. "It's converting their energy." "The lattice is growing stronger with each strike." Aurelia's lips pressed together in grim satisfaction. "Then we continue. Every node, every strand, every pulse link them all. Humanity will not yield." The battle raged for hours or maybe an eternity compressed into seconds. Time was meaningless in the warped vicinity of the breach's outer distortions. Yet despite the overwhelming assault, the lattice continued to expand, fortified by the aliens' resonance, the ship's harmonic systems, and the ingenuity of the crew. Slowly, the first signs of structural cohesion appeared. The lattice stabilized enough to create a protective envelope around the core, extending outward like a shimmering fortress of light. The Formless recoiled from the network, their amorphous forms unable to penetrate the harmonics without being disrupted. Aurelia allowed herself a single thought of grim triumph. The lattice had begun to function as intended, but she knew it was only the beginning. "They will adapt," she reminded herself, "and we must be ready." The alien's voice, weak but steady, resonated through the lattice. "This is the first step. The luminous shield can be reborn, but more will come. The Formless are patient. They will strike again." Aurelia met the alien's gaze. "Then we will meet them, and we will hold. Humanity will not fall, not now, not ever." The crew rallied around her command, each understanding the stakes, each contributing to the weaving of the lattice that now pulsed like a heartbeat across the ship. Outside, the Formless paused, assessing, probing, retreating temporarily as they recalculated their assault. The lattice had become a beacon of defiance, a symbol of what human ingenuity and alien guidance could achieve in the face of annihilation. Aurelia stood at the command console, eyes unwavering, as the harmonic lattice continued to grow, and the first true hope against the Formless began to take tangible form. The Resolute of Dawn, battered but unbroken, carried the core of the ancient shield and its fragile guide, ready to defend the first step of humanity's stand against the unbeing that sought to erase all life. The Resolute of Dawn had drifted into the secluded nebula sector, an isolated expanse of fractured gas clouds and dense asteroid fields, where sensors struggled to maintain accuracy and navigational charts were unreliable. It was a precarious haven, but it offered concealment from the wider reach of the breach and the advancing forces of the Formless. Every system of the ship hummed with tension as Aurelia Vance oversaw the final preparations for integrating the luminous shield lattice into the vessel's full operational capacity. The alien survivor lay in its containment cradle, its veins flickering with radiant pulses that now extended in subtle patterns into the lattice. The harmonic field between the alien and the shield's core had stabilized to a degree, but the alien's body still trembled with every burst of energy. Mara Ellerin worked tirelessly, her hands and eyes fixed on the modulating arrays, constantly adjusting to maintain coherence. "It's stable for now," she reported, her voice tight with fatigue. But any large fluctuations could collapse the lattice and destabilize the alien completely. Even a single misalignment could be fatal. Dorian Crest, standing near the reinforced bulkhead, adjusted kinetic dampeners and energy buffers, his armor panels reflecting the dim ambient glow. "And the Formless?" he asked. "We can't assume they're gone just because we're hidden." Aurelia's gaze did not leave the viewport, which showed the swirling nebula clouds illuminated by distant stars. They are watching, they are patient, they learn. We have drawn them before, and they will come again stronger. We are preparing for the inevitable, and when they arrive, we will be ready. Hail, fingers flying over the navigation interface, interjected. Commander, preliminary scans show multiple energy distortions converging near the breach periphery. They're probing, testing. It's only a matter of time before they identify our location. Aurelia's jaw tightened. Then we have no time. Every second we delay increases the risk. Mara, continue harmonic integration. Dorian, ensure all defensive nodes are reinforced. Hale, ready the ship for immediate evasive maneuvers if necessary. We cannot wait for them to come to us unprepared. The alien stirred, a soft pulse echoing through the ship's harmonic network. They are coming faster than you anticipate. The first strike will be devastating. You must endure it and hold. Only then can the luminous shield function as intended. Aurelia met its gaze, resolute. We will endure, we will hold. Humanity does not surrender. Hours passed as the crew completed the integration. The lattice now enveloped the core and extended through the ship systems, forming a resonant network that amplified the aliens' own bioenergetic signature. It shimmered with a subtle light, visible through the translucent control panels, a living geometry of defense and promise. The first warning signs came not from sensors, but from the ship itself. Subtle tremors vibrated through the hull, low-frequency waves that set the stomachs of the crew taut. The nebula outside began to shift unnaturally, clouds twisting and fracturing in impossible patterns. Hale's hands flew across his console. Commander, they've found us. Spatial distortions are intensifying. Multiple entities, formless avatars, are converging on our sector from warp space nodes. Their mass is beyond comprehension. They're moving faster than any sublight projection can track accurately. Dorian readied the security stations. This is it. They're coming in force. Aurelia's voice was calm, sharp, unwavering. Then we fight. All power to the lattice. Activate defensive nodes. Maintain harmonic resonance with the alien. Every system linked, every pulse synchronized. We will not falter. The first wave struck like a shadow made of living darkness, a distortion in the nebula itself. It lashed at the lattice with impossible speed, trying to collapse the shield's emerging structure. The ship groaned under the force of the attack. Dorian fired pulse arrays and kinetic disruptors, but the effect was minimal. The Formless were drawn to consciousness itself, not matter. Their attack was an assault on the mind and the very essence of being. Mara cried out as the aliens' containment field trembled violently. They feed on thought. They feed on life. We must hold them. Aurelia's hands were steady on the command console. Divert all energy to lattice stabilization. Focus harmonic synchronization. Force them into the nodes. The lattice responded, absorbing the formless assault, converting the raw destructive energy into reinforcement for its own structure. Strands of light wove into denser patterns, expanding the protective mesh across the ship. One wave dissipated, only to be replaced immediately by another. The Formless did not tire. They learned. Each strike adapted to the previous failure. The ship's systems strained beyond design, alarms flashing, components overheating, lights flickering. But Aurelia's command remained unwavering. We will not yield. She moved across the bridge, eyes scanning every console. Focus the lattice forward, create a resonant field around the alien. Amplify the core's pulse, hold them away from the ship's vital systems. The alien's energy pulsed in response, veins glowing brighter as its resonance reinforced the lattice. We survive together. We must survive together. The lattice is our defiance. The Formless surged, colliding with the lattice, but the mesh held. For every attack, the lattice converted their energy, reinforcing itself, growing stronger. Aurelia knew the fight was far from over. The Formless were patient, and they would strike again and again. But humanity had a weapon they could not consume: defiance, ingenuity, and the willingness to endure against impossible odds. Dorian barked orders, coordinating pulse arrays and defensive nodes. Hale maintained the ship's position in the shifting nebula, navigating through gravitational anomalies to keep the lattice aligned. Mara worked tirelessly, adjusting harmonic modulation to maintain the alien's resonance with the lattice. Time blurred, minutes stretching into hours as the battle raged. The ship vibrated with energy, and the crew moved as one organism, each act synchronized with every other. Finally, as the first assault began to wane, Aurelia allowed herself a breath. The lattice had held. The Formless recoiled, confused by the adaptive network, unable to penetrate the combined defenses of human ingenuity and alien guidance. The alien's voice was weak, but clear. The first step is complete. The lattice stands, but the war continues. They will return and more will follow. Aurelia's eyes swept across her crew, seeing determination mirrored in every expression. Then we prepare for the next wave, and the one after that. Humanity will not falter. We will defend this lattice, this shield, and this world, whatever it takes. We endure, we survive, and we rise. The Resolute of Dawn drifted in the nebula shadows, battered yet unbroken. The luminous shield's lattice pulsed with radiant energy, its strands intertwining with the alien's own life force. Outside, the Formless retreated temporarily, regrouping and recalculating. But Aurelia knew they would return, stronger and more relentless. And when they did, humanity would be ready. In the silence that followed, Aurelia allowed herself a fleeting thought, one that she had denied herself for hours: hope. Not naive, not fragile, but a hardened certainty born from courage, sacrifice, and the refusal to surrender. The alien stirred slightly, its eyes opening to meet hers. "You have done what my people could not. The shield begins anew. Humanity is its first guardian." Aurelia nodded. "And we will not let it fall, not now, not ever." Outside the ship, the nebula glowed faintly as the lattice of defiance expanded outward, a beacon of resistance in the void. The first true stand of humanity against the Formless had begun. The war was far from over. But for the first time, Aurelia Vance and her crew had proved that even in the face of incomprehensible annihilation, humanity could endure and triumph.